WFP. I am here today with Ricky again, who is our electrical manager. You might have seen us on some other videos talking about electrical installation condition reports, EICRs or fixed wire testing for short. So today we're talking about EICRs again, but we've got some more juicy stuff for you, which is about the report itself. We're going to actually go through, we've got here an actual printed report. We'll put it on the screen as well so you know what section we're talking about. But this particular video, we've covered codes, which should be on the screen right now. We've covered what actually is fixed wire testing, and we've also covered what comes after fixed wire testing, which I suppose this kind of ties into a little bit in the sense that you've had your fixed wire testing carried out, you've now had the report handed to you, you know what the codes mean because we've told you what they mean in our video about them all, but how do you actually understand each section? They can be quite thick. I mean, I don't know how many pages this is.
That's not the whole report as well.
40 pages, my gosh.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And we've cut back on this one.
Yeah, so this is just a templated one. This isn't any one in particular's EICR. It's got, at the bottom there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but we'll put it on the screen anyway as well, where you can have satisfactory or unsatisfactory. Those are the two outcomes, almost like your MOT, pass, fail.
Yeah.
This one's been crossed out, so it's unsatisfactory. But we'll go through that, and Ricky's going to talk to you about what each section means and basically how to decipher your report. Shall we start at the start?
Shall we start at the top?
At the start of the alphabet, which is section A, which is details of the client/person ordering the report.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing to do is, like any report, as a reference, make sure the details are correct.
Yeah.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what section A starts. So details of the client. So who is ordering this report?
Yeah.
So it's literally that simple.
Has it got to be the duty holder, or can it be, for example, if it was delegated to like the office manager?
Typically, whoever's paying the bill.
Right.
So it'll be the company. It won't be a specific person.
Okay.
So if it's us, it'd be WFP, our address
of
this office, our postcode on R1. Just above that as well, you'll get a certificate reference. That's important. Make sure you've got something. We can always reference back to a certificate. So it should have as a regulation, everyone should have some sort of certificate reference on it.
Okay.
Then we go to section B, which is the purpose of the report.
Right.
So why are we doing this report? So on this particular one, this is a 5-year check. So we say to assess compliance would be a 7671. But it could be a whole house visit. It could be you've just done a massive water leak and you just want to check your circuits are okay.
Yeah.
That's important. Why exactly are we producing this report?
Okay.
So make sure that is what you asked for.
Yeah.
In essence.
And obviously, if you change hands, so the business changes hands, those two sections will be incredibly important because you can have their section. The business has changed hands.
Yeah, it could be change of tenancy, change of ownership, change of use of building.
Exactly, and then you want to make sure that your details are correct. Otherwise, if it's the old company and something happens, they're technically liable because on paper that's what it says. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then we go to section C, which is the details of the actual installation.
Right.
So we've got section A, which is the details of the company producing the report.
Yeah.
Section C is where are we? Okay. What is the site? So, we work for multiple clients, we've got multiple sites.
Yes.
So we can do something, typical us, we've got this section where we're sitting now.
Yes.
We've also got a main office over there, we've also got a store, all different buildings.
Yes.
So that is what we'll be detailing there. Right. So we'll have WFP, we'll have our address up there. Section C, what building are we actually doing? And here we'll have the occupant building.
Yeah.
So for instance, you could have a landlord.
Yeah.
Do you want them down or do you want the actual occupant building down? Do you want the name of that person?
Makes
or do you want
sense.
the company? So that's that. The address of where we're at. The description of premises, so is it domestic, commercial, industrial or other. Estimated age of the electrical installation, that's important. It's not always easy to gauge, but we will make an educated guess of the age of the installation. So whether the building, what colour wires are in there, so on and so forth. Is there any evidence of alteration or additions? Which, if you've got a 20-year-old installation, they're always possibly going to be. In here, you could, for instance, say that we now got LED lighting, that wouldn't be original. So there's a evidence of alteration or additions. If there's yes, we put estimated age of them, the date of the last inspection, which is always important because we never seem to get that.
Yeah.
So ideally, when you get these EICRs done, you should be giving this to me. This is our previous report, look at that.
Yeah.
We never get it.
No.
We never get it, for reasons we've spoken about before in terms of quality of report.
Yeah.
Is there any records of the installation available? Typically there isn't, and who are these records held by? But really, the way that the NIC would want to do it, or the way that any electrical regulation or body would want to do it, is that this builds a history of your electrical system.
Yeah.
You know, so from when you first go in that building, or when that building is very first built, you'll be given a certificate. That should be filed away.
And that's
And
what
then
EIC.
every subsequent certificate should be available. So you should have a massive history of the electrical system within that building. This never happens, but that is the ideal. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
That's why we do the reports we do. So that's section C. Section D, really important, this one, because it talks about the extent of the installation and the limitations of the inspection and testing. So why is that important? For instance, on this one, the extent of the electrical installation covered by the report is the sub-mains and all associated circuits, or 100% of the installation, pretty much. So we're testing absolutely everything, but we agreed limitations. So, you know, on this example report, we put the testing of the lights was carried out the switches instead of the lights, because the lights were so old we didn't want to dismantle them. Because we could take them apart and then they don't work again, and it's a nightmare, so we tested from the switch instead.
Okay.
So that's an agreed limitation. No testing carried out on the lift circuits, because that's specialist equipment. We don't want to get involved with switching the lifts on and off, because you're going to have to call your lift engineering company to come and get them back on. We do alarms and fire alarms, so we cover them anyway, but it'd be same on that.
Yeah.
If I was just an electrical company, I wouldn't be switching the fire alarm off.
Yeah.
Because when I switch it back on, it needs reset.
Why is that particular section important for someone to know?
Because the agreed limitations is obviously what we're agreeing
What
between
testing.
the client and the company testing.
So a huge example that comes to mind, less electrical, more fire and security side, but we have seen previous reports from other companies other than ourselves who have the reports of what we've tested, say the fire alarm, but on the top they've got a certificate which says 100% tested, but then when you look through the actual report, it says NA, NA, NA on a lot of things, which means it could be, for example, they couldn't get into a particular room to test that detector, which happens, you know, access issues and things.
But that comes on to the next section.
Yeah, and that's what that makes me think of. So from anyone who's watching's point of view, if you're receiving an EICR and you're reading it, checking those limitations, making sure that that is what was agreed.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it might mean actually your electrician's not done what he was supposed to and needs to go back.
And open as well, but actually you have to say who you agreed that with.
Yeah.
And that has to be a person.
Yeah.
You can't be as bold and just say a company.
Exactly.
NIC will want to know exactly who that person was that agreed that.
Yeah.
And if you get this report as the duty holder and you look at who that's agreed with and you say, well, they can't make any decisions, we've got an issue.
Yeah.
Because that's what we agreed with.
Yeah, there
Typically,
needs to
we'll
be a
go on to
HR.
site. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I say, if we're doing, you need to know we've not tested your lift circuits. So they should be checked yearly anyway, lifts, same as your fire alarm. So if we've not tested that, we need to have agreed that with you. So you're clear that still needs doing.
Yeah.
We have not tested that for you.
Absolutely.
So that's the agreed limitations. That's the stuff typically the person tested, the engineer on site will speak to site contacts and agree that. We agree some of it as well in terms of, you know, if we go during the day, we can't have you switch that circuit off because all the computers go off.
Yeah.
So we agree that limitation. The person understands that that's not going to be on the report. We haven't tested that. So that could be a potential fault on there. And it's a way of us saying, don't go back to us. We told you, we agreed that.
Yeah.
We told you, so when our computers ain't working or that socket's tripped, we never tested it. So it's kind of covering for us and covering for them as well. And then next to that is the operational limitations under Section D. So these are what you just said quite widely, the areas we can't access. So in this case, we put no access to the roof area. That's important because if we've got no access to the roof area, we couldn't access the aircon units on top of the roof. So we've not, because we couldn't get up there, we can't test them, obviously. And something we do a lot is, and this one, no access to main fuses. So we couldn't actually get into the room where the main head was. It was locked and they didn't have any keys.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. That's a big thing not to check.
Yeah.
But it's an operational limitation because we couldn't. There's nothing we could do to get in that room because no one had any keys.
So in my head, if I was someone reading this and I got this report back, that's almost the first place I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, what wasn't tested?
Yeah.
Do they need to come back?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do I need to do to get that tested? Is
Yeah.
important. Section E is the summary of the condition of the installation. That's a real brief summary. So in this case, we've put installation carried out as new around 2012, 270 condition regulations at the time. Fixed wire tester shows cables to be in good condition, but remedial works are needed to ensure the electrical system is safe for continued use. So we've said the hard wiring, the wires are okay, but actually there's other issues, which obviously as you go into the observations you'd start unveiling them. But it's just a real quick summary of the condition. This will not give a load of detail. If we was to do the remedial works, we'd change that to satisfactory and we'd put in there remedial works carried out on this date. Now means that this electrical system is safe for continued use, but there may be a couple of C3s that still need attention, which we detail. So it's just a quick summary.
Right.
So yeah, never expect a lot on that. So that's the first page. I mean,
that's pretty.
We've gone up to E on the first page.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So section F is the observations and recommendations to be taken. This is the important part.
Okay.
Because obviously this is the real quick brief of every observation we've made. These will all be numbers, item numbers. The reference, say, could be reference to the certificate or reference to the distribution board or reference to a circuit. The observation we've made and then the code we've given it. So obviously I'm not going to go into massive detail on this, will be forever. But yeah, there's the observation, so that's important. At the top there, you'll have either there were no items adversely affecting the electrical safety. If you've got a tick there, brilliant, that means it's satisfactory. Or we've made further observations and we need to rectify. So then that will go on to depending on how many observations you've got, 29, we've got 42 on the example, and then it's coded C1, C2, C3, now about the coding. Then under that, it will give you a total amount. So we've got how many C1s, how many C2s, how many C3s, how many FIs. Once we do the remedials, there'll be another section under that says we've rectified these numbers.
Okay.
And then these will obviously change as you see on the screen. Section G is the declaration. So was it satisfactory or unsatisfactory again? That is actually on the first page.
Yes.
It's also on page 3 on our reports, on page 4 depending on the observations we got. And then it will be the tester and the person that reviewed it. So in this case, because the example is me for both, but the tester would be the engineer we have on site. And then for our company at the moment, it'd always be me that reviews it. It says, I'm happy with what we found basically. It'll be the qualified supervisor's job to do that.
Yeah.
So in each company, with their IC, we have a qualified supervisor. Their job is to go through this report. Has the tester done his job? And ultimately agree with what he's put or disagree, change it, and then agree after. So that's pretty much that section. Section H will tell you basically what's in this report. So there's 6 schedules of inspection and testing on pages 11 to 30. So that's basically something we have to put in there that says 11 to 30 is actually the test results. Doesn't mean a whole lot to a client, but we have to put it in there. Yeah. It's a regulation, so we have to put that. Section I, again, that's important because that's telling you when your next inspection is due.
And that will also be a sticker on the panel as well. That it would say the date of your inspection and the date of your next inspection.
Absolutely, but the real big thing here we see all the time is if there's a load of remedial works, a company will say it's due in 6 months. That is not what this section is saying. The section is quite clearly saying we recommend that this installation is further inspected after an interval of no more than this one is 5 years on a change of tenant. Provided, this is where it's important, provided that any items in section F, which have C1, C2 or FI, have been rectified. Or in final words. It goes into much more detail.
So that's where things get confusing. If people think they don't need to do anything for 5 years, it's like, no, that's when your next test is due. It's almost like you're having something else serviced and they're saying, like, again, with the MOT, because that's quite an easy example to give, you failed. I mean, it's really a lot more cutthroat because they give you something like, is it 14 days or something from the MOT? Yeah. You've got to rectify that. You can't drive the car and until you've got those rectified. Yeah. It's almost like, well, okay, if you passed, but they say, you know what, we actually recommend that you do need to maybe your tyres are getting bald, you need to look at that in a few months or something, or they'll just tell you something that's pending that you'll need to look at, and then you do nothing, and then you come back because you think, oh, okay, I'm all good till my next MOT, which is a year from then, and they come back and say, well, no, it's failed now because you've not done anything.
Yeah, and the big thing here with that next inspection, obviously, we put it's 5 years once you've got this stuff done. If you don't get this stuff done, this is unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
But when a company puts 6 months, that means you could use another company to do your remedial work.
Yeah.
And there's a number of different ways you can document how you've got your remedial works done.
Yeah.
So that's important because they could give you, obviously they can't produce this EICR that you've got. Only the company, so if you use us for your remedials, we basically do another certificate.
Yeah.
It's a copy of this one, but it will have all the remedials listed.
Yeah.
And then we'll update our exact certificate.
Yeah.
Now you can't pay a company to come do that EICR again.
No.
So they'll probably do the remedial works needed and then issue certification against that. But if this says it's only 6 months, then you need to get this done again in 6 months. So that's why it's really important.
It's a bit cheeky, really.
Exactly that. So if you get a company that says, right, we'll give you this report, it's 6 months because you need to get remedial work done.
Yeah.
You've got to use them then. Otherwise you've got to get another EICR done.
It's a trap. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this should always really important that says exactly what they're saying. So this could change. It could be a case of the electrical system, the wiring is really starting to show its age. We're recommending 1 year. You know, so you need to be careful with that. But a lot of companies do that. They say, you know, there's so remedial work's done. It needs to be this amount of time. We don't actually record it in ours because of the way we do it, but some reports will actually specify a reason why they're recommending that. We don't because typically we'll do it as 5 years. So yeah, that's section I. Section J is the details of the electrical contractor. Registration number is important here. So wherever they're registered, so you want all their details. Sometimes I see a lot of this where it will have a trading title, we won't have the address, won't have their postcode, won't have a phone number.
No.
You know, so actually, you try and find them again. And it's really difficult. So, you know, when you're a rental company, you've got an address. And yeah, that's that section.
And is that registration number, that's for the NIC, EIC?
For us,
Yeah.
you could also be with NAPIT.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the 2 big ones.
Yeah.
But funny enough, for some reason, NIC, you can search us as a company, but you can't search our registration number, and it doesn't show either. Which is
That's really strange.
it's a bit pointless listing it in a way, isn't it? If you can't actually, you know, can ask if this person actually registered with you, NIC won't tell you. So it's a bit strange, but if you go on the NIC website and type in WFP, we will come up. And you can find us that way. But there you go, you need to do the registration number. Section K starts going into the actual details, which I'm not going to go into massive detail about, but it's details of the supply characteristics and earthing arrangements. So basically, when you do a testing, you're going to start at the origin. So where does that cable come from in the street into your building? You start there, and then you work your way logically through. So section K will tell you the earthing arrangement, whether it's AC or DC, it's always going to be AC in our case, whether it's single phase or 3 phase, and then some of the results, so the external earth impedance and stuff like that. It's not going to be a whole lot to the person getting it done. But if you've got limitation, not applicable, you've got an issue. You know, so that's that. And then section L goes into the particulars of the installation, where it just goes into a little bit more detail what exactly we're looking at, where your main switches, earthing, bonding conductors.
Do they need to really understand, does someone reading this really need to understand?
The only thing I think you really need to know with this stuff, if you don't understand it, brilliant. But if you've got limitations not applicables, I'll be asking why.
Okay.
You know, if you want to do your due diligence, so typically bonding of extraneous conductive parts will be to water and gas, because that's all that's really going into it. If you're in a bigger building, like a warehouse, you've probably got structural steel that needs bonding, or lightning protection, or worse, we've got oil installation pipe. So if they're all NA, everyone's got water. If you've got water going to a building, you really want to tick there. If there isn't a tick, why? But again, yeah, you're probably right. People ain't going to know a whole bunch about that, but if you've got NA limitations everywhere, it's going to come up on there. Then we go to the inspection schedule for distribution boards and circuits. Again, when you get your C2, C3, C1s, all of that stuff, it will come up against something on here.
Right.
So as we spoke about in previous videos, we test to the regulations. Every observation we make that's got a code has to have broken something in the regulations. This is a real quick reference to what is broken. So we've got all passes here, but for instance, we've got C2, confirmation integral test button / switch causes RCDs to trip. So if that's a C2, that means basically we've pushed the button on an RCD, the button's done nothing. So that's what we reference back to. And everything has to be referenced back to one of these. And there's a few. But again, I'm not going to go into massive detail because there's so many. But that's basically almost like our checklist.
Yeah.
So your inspector, your tester will go through, start at one, walk all the way through, this is what they're checking against. But in truth, you know, you look at one of these, there's probably 10 different things to check to cover that one.
We've spoken before as well about, it may be this section that you're alluding to there, but in terms of where you might use an electrician and you'll get this back and then you'll get your remedials, but on your actual report, that is so barren of information that you can't actually decipher what's actually, you need to use them for remedials in that instance, because, and if you wanted to use if you wanted to get a competitive price, like, oh, can you help me with my remedials? The first question anyone, certainly us, would ask you is, can we see your EICR so we can actually look at the report to collate that quote for you so we know what's wrong? But we can't tell what's wrong because there's hardly any information on it, which...
I mean, yeah, you're not going to get that information from this. Everyone has to do this. What they've actually done now, in the latest amendment, there's 10 sections here, and each section is broken down. So like section 10, locations containing a bath or shower, has 8 sections in that. They've got rid of the 8 sections. So this is not going to be big. This is going to be section 1 to 10 now.
Okay.
Because ultimately, it's good if you know what you know, for the next electrician that comes in.
Yeah.
But it's a load of gobbledygook, if you know.
Okay.
So they've actually broke this right down, but it's basically our checklist. The inspector still has to test to this, but in the report it's only going to show sections 1 to 10 now.
Okay.
So yeah, but that is the inspection schedule. Then we go on to the schedule of circuit details, which I spoke about before.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically detailing each distribution board and the circuits within it. Again, this is not going to mean a whole lot to the person that's received the report, but it means a lot for your next inspection. So what we can do, if we've got this detail, we basically go out and we can halve the checks we do, because we're just verifying what it said 5 years ago. We're going to expect it to be slightly worse because it's 5 years older.
Yes.
But if we've got this to work from in the first place, it makes it a lot quicker to actually fill in our report anyway. And you know, the number of points used is a big one, so we know a lift supply, we're only looking at 1 point. You know, if we've got sockets, we're looking at 13 points, we can start building up a picture. If we haven't got this and we're going in with nothing, it makes it a lot longer, a lot more difficult. So yeah, that's pretty much the schedule of circuit details. So depending on how many boards you've got, you're going to have one, if I show you there. So you're going to have one that gives you all the details of what it is. So the type of breaker, the rate of the breaker, and then on this side will be the test results. And then they go together for each board. So there's a few of them, I'm not going to lie, because we've done a few boards for this mock-up. So once we get to them, that's all your boards.
Now we're on page...
This is 31.
Okay.
And this is where I cut the report, so it's actually 42 pages long. But on this one, this is the really important one, because these are the observation details.
Okay.
And this is where, as you
spoke
spoke about,
pages.
it depends on how many observations you've got. So this was a big one, we know we have 42 observations. So there's 4 observations to a page of our report, and there's 10, so 11 pages of this.
Yes.
But
wow.
all of this accumulates in our reports, and this is what people don't typically do. This is why we can't price remedial works on pretty much everyone else.
So that's what I was talking about earlier. Okay.
So if we went all the way back, the easiest way to read the report, so we're on section F again, which is on page 2. You could go item number 1, multiple extension leads in use throughout the building, recommend installing additional socket outlets. That's normally as much as you get on a report. But we then do this.
Okay.
So then we go, item number 1, you go into observation details, item number 1, we've got a picture.
Yeah.
We know exactly what the observation was, repeats itself. It will go to the inspection item covered, which is 7.1, which is what we just said about that massive inspection report, which details 7.1, wiring systems appropriate for the type and nature of the installation. So that's the regulation we're saying it's gone against. And then we do an image, which is, in this case, lots of extension leads in use. So it's literally exactly what you're looking at.
So that's literally the snapshot of what you're then looking at the back. Very
Exactly.
Very similar to if you're dealing with the health and safety in your building, you would have come across fire risk assessments or contracted for fire risk assessments to take place. And with the ones that we do and that I see, it's exactly the same sort of thing, that you'll have a 40-page document. It's almost the other way around though, because at the back they've got the checklist of all the recommendations against a traffic light system of the priority, but then the body of the report has got a section on every single thing: heating, your gas, your hazards.
I think one of the things, I mean, I'll let you read this. So if you read item number 3.
Item number 3, reference certificates, observations are cables for fan spare, poorly installed, potential access to live parts, and then it's got in brackets plant room, and that is passed as a C2.
So what do you take from that?
That something is live and it shouldn't be.
Okay. That's
it.
And it's in the plant room.
Yes.
So really, you can't take a lot from that. And neither can we, when we get given a report like that, and you go, can you go through remedials? I don't know what it is.
There.
Now look at that.
Yeah.
Read me item number 3.
Yeah.
And now tell me what you think it means.
Cables for fan spare, poorly installed, but same thing what it said there. Connections under no undue strain, poorly installed. Now I've seen that.
Now you've looked at that picture.
Yeah.
Is it pretty obvious what the issue is?
What is happening?
Exactly. So someone with no electrical knowledge, or not an electrician, you've got a lot of electrical knowledge, that's incorrect to me.
I'm not an electrician though.
Pictures speak 1,000 words,
Yeah.
and the person you've got is, what's that? So we'll get this picture in large, like on the screen,
Yeah.
but it's very obvious that there's cables that the trunking's falling short.
Yeah, is that just in mid-air, or is that
Yeah, that's just flowing.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And that potentially is live. So if someone touched that, I mean, obviously, I'm not sure how high that is.
I mean, it's harder to see in this picture. So we did there's about 10 things we could pull this up on.
Yeah.
But the most immediate one was actually, if you look at that white plastic,
Yes.
and then that metal box,
Yes.
you can see a gap.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be there, which means you can get your fingers in that gap, and as you do, you've got exposed live parts. So
Right.
that's what we're talking about.
I see.
So is someone going to stick their fingers in there? Probably not. It's quite high up. If they could, it would be a C1. But we've put it as C2 because of the location, it's quite high up, but there is a potential danger there.
Yeah.
And then this goes on, obviously, number 4 is pretty simple. We're missing a screw on the front plate. So we've taken a picture of this, we're just missing a screw on there. It's a very, very, very minor thing.
Yeah.
But it's a C3.
Yeah.
You should have a screw there, and haven't done the other 40 odd observations that we listed in this example. But I think that gives it a really clear instruction that when you actually look at that and you go, I don't really know what that means. But if you go to that and instantly you've gone, what the hell is that? It's obviously...
That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
And obviously it's so important as well. And something that this just made me think of in terms of when you're going ahead with an EICR, a lot of people obviously, they want it done because it's just a check that you just need done. So they want to try and get it as economically done price as possible. But I'm just thinking as well, because at the end of the day, there is a human that is doing this test for you. Okay, they're an electrician, they should be competent, you should be doing your due diligence to make sure that you're using someone who you're comfortable with and is experienced in that as well. But technically, what you've explained to me here, another electrician might say, actually, that's a C2 to me. Could they? I mean, does that kind of variation happen, or are the standards that sort of concrete in terms of what is categorised as what?
No, it's a minefield.
I thought so.
It's such a grey area.
Yeah.
But this is the EICR. So if we've produced the EICR, it doesn't matter what someone else thinks. If you get someone else who's doing the remedial works, they've got to rectify that. What they can't do is say, actually, I disagree with that, it's a C3, unless they're going to do it out the EICR.
So this is like,
yeah,
gold dust.
Yeah, and this is why, do you know what?
Cannot argue with it.
There is not a more difficult thing in the industry than to speak to another professional and justify your decision if they disagree with you.
Right.
That is always in my mind when we're doing these reports. I'm constantly thinking, what would another professional say? And I've been in the industry a long time. If this was presented to someone else, can you argue that is a C3, not C2? I don't think you can. I think that's potentially that. I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt that anyone could say, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
People will, I'm sure.
That's where your QS comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Supervisor,
Yeah, yeah. If you've got someone with a much passion, as you know, I'm a very passionate guy when it comes to this sort of thing, I'm constantly thinking, is that, and it's very simple, the way we do it is the way we teach our engineers, do a risk assessment. It doesn't matter when it was installed, because obviously if you installed it today, the regulations are very different to what it was 10 years ago. So you can't do that. You can't say, to today's value, that should be that. You can't then foul the EICR forward. It literally, is it potentially dangerous? Is it immediately dangerous? Or do any further investigation? That's it. So when you look at that, would you say that that is potentially dangerous?
Yes.
And that's with no experience as to why?
I would say so, yes.
Just by looking at it with no experience, you're saying, yeah, that's potentially dangerous to me. But there's a million reasons why something could be potentially dangerous. You know, it could be that you've got something that's not got RCD protection. There's a socket that, you know, if it was to get an electric shock, you're not covered. There's a million things you have to look at. That's why you need competent professionals to do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. I say everything we do, someone will come along. And do you know what? A lot of things I speak about is it's your narrative, isn't it? Why do you want this report done? There's a lot of companies out there. Certainly more companies would be willing to give you a report that's satisfactory than someone that would give a professional report.
Yeah.
There's a plenty of companies that will go in, take your money.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we produce a report, we charge for producing this report.
And it's going to be completely impartial.
Exactly.
This is the clear,
it's facts.
hard facts.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from that, because we charge appropriately for this level of report, it's very important to us that say, look, we want you to use us, you know, we want you, not you to use us for the remedial works. But should you use us? Should you be forced into using us? Absolutely not.
Because of absolute, limitations.
Yeah, exactly. You should not be forced to use us. But we hope by the job that we do and the evidence in this, and it does work because, 90% of people use us for remedial works. But absolutely, and it gets more, when you get a lot of remedial works, when you're talking tens of thousands, you should absolutely be getting 1, 2, 3 quotes. Who wouldn't? Who would just blindly use one person? That's just not good business sense. So you go, you shop around. But our report's the only one I've ever seen that you could actually offer that.
Thorough.
Exactly, yeah, and it's so important to us.
Yeah.
It's one of our unique selling points, that from this report you could offer this to other contractors. Excuse me, I've run out of breath there. And they should be able to look at that and actually give you a fair remedial price. Or just use us, it's a lot easier. But you shouldn't be forced to. That's the message is you should never be forced down to use one company for anything ever.
No, it's not fair. I think at the end of the day, for anyone that's managing a building, whether you're the office manager or you're the business owner or site manager, whatever your role is, if you're the person in charge of health and safety and keeping your building safe for continued use and everyone inside it and the actual investment of the place itself that's keeping your business going, running smoothly, then you absolutely want as much peace of mind as you can. You want your life to be easier. You don't want to be fleeced. You don't want to be commissioning work that then is just, you can't put anything to it.
Absolutely.
So if you do want any help, obviously, please get in touch with us. We do EICRs every day. We know what we're doing. We produce these reports. Ricky sees these reports. You've seen him now. He's our QS and all-round electrical guru. If you do obviously have any other questions about EICRs or anything electrical in your building whatsoever, any questions to help you just understand a little bit better, hopefully this video has helped with that, please comment below and we'll get back to you. Or our details, our number and emails and everything will be on the screen shortly. So thank you so much, Ricky, for going through the report. I've learned loads. And I'm sure we'll be back soon talking more about EICRs.
Yeah, certainly.
Absolutely. If you look in the description below as well, there's links to our blog post, other videos, do check them out. We've got literally a catalogue of videos about this because electrical safety, after all, is incredibly important.
Certainly is.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining today. See you later. Bye.